الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم ومن استنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي اللهم ثبتنا عند الموت بلا إله إلا الله آمين يا رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome back everyone. This is the Sunday session where we look at journey to the afterlife, what happens after we die. We've already covered the topics of death, the grave itself, the signs of the day of judgment, the day of judgment, and now we're looking at hellfire and paradise. And so we're going through some of the relevant topics related to hellfire first before we talk about paradise, inshallah. So the current section that we are discussing has to do with what are some of the deeds that lead to the hellfire. And these are deeds which not only can lead to hellfire, but may end up a person in hellfire forever. So eternal hellfire, okay, depending on the severity of the deed and the intention and so on. So the first and foremost, the greatest of all sins is what? What's the greatest sin ever? Shirk with Allah, right? Making partners with Allah or obeying someone as a Rabb, taking a Lord besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, worshipping anyone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's number one. Number two, failing to fulfill legislated duties as well as denying the day of judgment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that the people of paradise will ask the people of hell. So from these ayat, we also learn there is some communication going on between the people of Jannah and the people of Jahannam. So this communication is obviously not for the sake of taking the people of hellfire out. This communication has to do with what are some of the reasons the people of hellfire are there, what are some of the reasons people of Jannah are there. Okay, so there is some communication going on. So in one of the ayat, we find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the people of Jannah will ask the people of hellfire, Ma salakakum fi saqar. Why did you end up in hellfire? So the people of Jannah are asking, why did you end up in hellfire? And they will say, Lam naku minal musallin. That's one of the deeds that lead somebody to hellfire. We did not used to pray. We did not used to pray. So the people of hellfire are explaining why they are in hellfire. And the first thing they say, we were not from the musallin. Okay. So here it's interesting, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not use the verb form. Okay, Allah used the noun form. Musalli is somebody who prays. Okay, rather than saying prayer itself, Allah said the one who prays. Okay, so the person, meaning it is part of this person's habit. It is part of this person's makeup to pray. So because we were not from those people who used to regularly pray, who used to obey Allah's orders in salah, then we are in trouble. We are in hellfire. So we need to look at our salah. That's why the most important deed after the shahada when somebody enters Islam is the salah. You have to work on your salah. And it's not enough just to say, well, I know the salah. When I was a kid, I learned how to pray properly. All my actions are in sync. I'm doing well with that. That's not enough. Salah is a constant effort. It needs constant reminder, constant effort. From the time, you make intention for salah, to going to wudu, making the wudu properly, making sure you're doing it, for the right reason, with the intention of going to salah, standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then starting salah early, being there early. You'll find, some people, they are always late for salah. Right? Don't be amongst those kind of musallin. Be amongst those musallin who are the best ones, who are always there early before the salah begins. They are getting the reward of the salah. Because waiting for salah is like praying salah. That's the reward. Let's say you come early for Isha and you're waiting for Isha, is 15 minutes left. Then what is the angels writing for you? As if you are already praying the salah. So we want that. And that's how these people go ahead of other people. That's the race, the competition. Small things. Every day, imagine you're there 10 minutes earlier before others. And you adopted this as a way of your life. Then on the day of judgment, you will see how ahead you will be from others. So every small thing adds up. So coming early for salah, then obviously bowing, prostrating, doing things properly, but also the khushu, the concentration in salah. The Prophet ﷺ, he told us, beware of the thief. The Sahaba said, who's the thief? The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, Shaitan, who's stealing from your salah. So the part of the salah that you are focused is your salah. The rest of the part where your mind is going left and right and you're not even thinking of what you're saying, that all is being stolen, as if Shaitan is stealing away that part of your salah. So how much of your salah will you preserve and how much of your salah will be stolen? That has to be effort. It's not like I learned the salah so I'm good. No, that is in the salah you'll have to make that effort every day, all the time. What are some of the ways we can increase khushu? Because we are on the topic of khushu. What are some of the ways? Tell me. What can you do to increase your khushu in salah? Yes. So I'm talking about in salah. You are in salah, and how are you going to increase your khushu, your concentration, your good, salah? Yes. Okay, so that's from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet said, somebody asked him, how do I increase khushu? The Prophet said, imagine this is your final salah. Because how are we going to pray that final salah? If we were told you just have this one prayer left in this life and after that you're dying, would you think about anything else other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Would you think about money? What am I going to eat next? My favorite TV program, the video game, the school, the job. Nothing matters anymore because this is my last time I'm going to pray and then I'm going back to Allah. So you will have a really good salah experience if you are able to tell yourself, this is my last salah, so I better treat it like my last salah. Yes, Imad? Understanding, that's very important, right? If I don't even know what I'm saying, how will I have any khushu? Now imagine the salah is in French, or the salah is in Japanese, or the salah is in some foreign language, you have no idea what it's saying. You would have no experience in that, right? You would not understand that. Yes, brother, you want to say something? Praying as if you, yes, that is ihsan, the level of ihsan. When Jibreel alayhi salam came to the Prophet and he taught him in front of the Sahaba, one of the things he taught him is ihsan. And what was the definition of ihsan? To worship Allah as if you see Him. And if you cannot get that feeling, at least to worship knowing that Allah sees you. So you have to remind yourself, I am in front of Allah. As if Allah is in front of me, Allah is seeing me. Who could be more important right now than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So it's a constant effort. You want to add something? Yes, very good. So understand the words that you're saying so that you think and reflect upon those words. Very good. Yeah. Another thing that helps is memorization of Quran. Okay? Because a lot of times when we come and the Imam is reciting a surah that we don't know, we have not memorized, you will not feel that connection. But imagine you come in and he's reciting something you also know, you also have memorized. Then you will be repeating with him and you will kind of have some connection with the words. So memorizing more Quran will also impact your salah experience, especially in Taraweeh, right? When really the Imam is going through, parts of the Quran, the whole Quran where we don't know those parts. So those are some of the things you could do. Also, I remember a few years ago, one of the Imams, he mentioned something from his personal life which helped him. He said that whenever he goes to Salah, before each Salah, he tries to do some good deed intentionally. Either give charity or visit the sick or do something good so that in the Salah he can ask Allah, Allah, accept that. And his whole Salah is like thinking about his deed and, Ya Allah, please accept that deed from. So that helped him kind of concentrate in the Salah. So there could be your own way too. You could come up with something that keeps your concentration and attention span better during the Salah. So one of the deeds that leads to hellfire is what? Not praying, missing Salah or praying, but praying, without any heed. And then they say, so this was number one, but then these people of hellfire say, وَلَمْ نَكُ نُطْعِمُ الْمِسْكِينَ, and we did not used to feed the poor. So that will lead a person in hellfire. If you are not giving your zakah, if you're not doing your part for society, Allah has given you money and you are not feeding the poor, then, what's the use of your taqwa then? What's the use of your salah then? What's the use of your iman then? That means you have no iman. Because to have iman, the minimum level is to have courtesy. We have to have courtesy, love, compassion, and feelings for Allah's creation. If somebody is suffering in front of you and you're able to help and you're not helping, you cannot have iman. You could say you have iman. You could be the greatest, reciter of the Quran. You could memorize the whole Quran. You could do this and that. But that shows you have no sympathy. You have no empathy in your heart. You have no compassion and love in your heart. No softness. The believer's heart is very soft. Cannot see others in pain. He's not like a tough guy, things act very tough. Oh, I don't care what happens to others. It's a dog eat dog world, right? No, that's not how it works for the believer, for Iman, for Muslims. For Muslims, it's like, what can I do? How can I contribute? How can I alleviate this poverty around me, this racism around me, this nakedness around me? How can I help people, in their lives? You want to say something, brother? If you know, if you missed like the previous year's zakah, you should pay because it's a due. Allah will ask you about it. But let's say a person has not paid their zakah for 50 years, and now Allah guided them. Of course, all they can do is maybe make tawbah. Now I'm talking about a Muslim who has not paid his zakah for 50 years. What is he going to do now when he realizes he should? Allah guides him more now, and I should have paid my zakah. If he can, but how do you even calculate it? It's like salah. Those people who were Muslim, but they never used to pray. And then Allah guided them more. They became, more religious. Allah, brought them back to the masjid. What do they do with all their missed salawat for years and years and years and years? I mean, you can maybe remember yesterday's missed salah. You can maybe remember a week's missed salah. How do you remember all the prayers that you've missed, and how do you even make them up? So there is two groups. One group of scholars say every time he prays the 5 prayers, he should add 1 prayer with it for the missed one, so that slowly he'll catch up. Okay, but there is no evidence for this. This is just an opinion. The correct opinion, Allahu Alam, is that this person makes tawbah, and then from that day starts praying, because Allah is forgiving for the past sins. If we start accounting everything and we say no, there cannot be a starting point for this person who has come, then life will become very difficult because people have missed all kinds of duties and all kinds of, yeah. So zakah should be paid. How much zakah do we have to pay? 2.5% of what? Of your savings? Not 1,000, not 4,000, 100. No. It is 85 grams of gold. That's what we have in the wording of the text. 85. So it depends on what that is in your time. What is the price of 85 grams of gold? Last time I checked, it was around $5,500. 85 grams of gold was about $5,500. So if you have savings more than $5,500, and they stay with you for a whole year, meaning you never use those $5,500, they stay with you for a whole year, then 2.5% of those savings is going to be zakah. As long as it's above the nisab, you should pay for the higher to be on the safe side. Unless you're keeping like very accurate records, which is very difficult to do. Because, you say, okay, I had 15,000 January 1st last year. Now the account went up to 18,000. But I had 15,000 then. Do I still have 15,000 or more? You pay on that 15,000. But what's the wiser, the safer thing to do? To pay on the 18,000, even though you did not have it for a whole year. Yeah, but it's still yeah, to pay for 15. Yeah, that's the safer. Yeah. Zakat contest. Uh-huh. Yeah. Bank. Yeah. The government does it. Allahu alam, Allahu alam. I mean, these are things that Islam has left open. You can come up with whatever works for that society for that time. Is it like directly from your bank account? Is it, going to, you have to file and then, the income is checked and, there's some calculation and then based on that, a bill comes to you, says you need to pay your zakah or whatever. So that is open. That's not an issue in Islam. Islam is flexible when it comes to the methodology of how the zakah needs to be collected. Yeah. Well, they're talking about a good Islamic, no, but they're not talking about what we have. They're talking about what should be the ideal Khilafah, like a proper good Islamic country where, things are good and no corruption is there and so on. Yeah. So that's their question, right? We're not talking about the corruption that is and there and what's the best way now. The best way right now is pay your own zakah. Yeah, right now that's how it is for most of the people. Okay, so number two, we did not feed the poor, the miskin. وَكُنَّا نَخُوضُ مَعَ الْخَائِضِينَ. This is the third crime which led them to hellfire. We used to make fun of the deen with those who make fun of the deen, mocking at the religion. We have to be careful with our language. When we talk about Quran, when we talk about Sunnah, okay, mocking at the religion, mocking at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, mocking at the Quran and Sunnah, belittling them, thinking, oh, we are better now. Sometimes Muslims do that. Oh, they used to do that was 700 some 1400 years ago. That's how the system was. So, the Quran says this or Quran says that. And now we are more civilized, more developed, more this, more that. So sometimes people talk about religion in a mock. For example, miracles. Modernists now, many modernists, even including some Muslims, you will find on YouTube their channels, they act like shuyukh or, muftis or whatever. And what they are doing is they are outright mocking the Quran and denying the Quran by saying, oh, what is this miracle stuff? Musa alayhi salam parted the sea. Are you serious? Is that, what are you talking about? Science has proven this cannot happen, this and that. So it must mean something else. So now then they reinterpret those ayat. So this kind of behavior is unacceptable. Whatever Allah says, whatever His Messenger brought is the truth. That's the basis of our iman. Otherwise, what's the point of being a Muslim? If you don't believe that what Allah sent and His Messenger sent are the truth, ultimate truth, then that means you're not even a Muslim. You might think like you're a Muslim, but you're not a Muslim because you have not submitted to the text of the Quran, the text of the Sunnah, the text of Islam. Where do we derive all our definitions of right and wrong from? Good and bad from? It's from the text, right? We are not like other religions where people rely on rabbis and pastors and this committee and that committee to kind of give us answers. No. Yes, we have fatwa from scholars, but they cannot go against Quran and Sunnah. So mocking at the Quran and Sunnah or mocking at the religion is one of the biggest crimes. Yes. So what do you mean think? Like you believe in them in your heart? I mean, the thoughts coming to you is from shaitan. If you are thinking those or thoughts are coming to you saying, how is that possible? Prophet went, on the night journey. In one night, he went up the heavens, 7 heavens. It takes light years and light years and light years to go from one star to another star. And he went and came back. And deep in your mind, if that question comes, then that's from shaitan. It's like whispering from shaitan. It might not be possible. But then what do you do with those thoughts? Do you reject them? You say, no, I still believe because the Prophet said the truth. The Quran said that Allah is the truthful one. Allah never lies. So if you respond to those thoughts internally with those, then you're okay. In fact, the Sahaba came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and they said, oh Prophet of Allah, sometimes we get these thoughts, which are kufr thoughts, right? Does Allah really exist? Is akhirah real? No, you get those thoughts from time. The Sahaba are saying this to the Prophet. We get those thoughts. So is that like bad? Does that mean we're not Muslim to have those thoughts? The Prophet said, what do you do with those thoughts? They said, we reject those thoughts. Meaning, we say, no, that's not true. What the truth is that Allah is real, Allah is our God, and the Prophet is our messenger. So we reject those thoughts. So the Prophet said, that is Iman. This is a sign of Iman, that you're rejecting those whisperings that are coming to you. So the coming of those whisperings is not kufr. Having those thoughts come to you, does not mean that you are a bad Muslim or you don't have Iman. It's what do you do after that? How do you respond to those thoughts in your head? That's where you will be a Muslim or people who ridicule. Okay? You understand this? Any questions on that? Oh yeah, now it's popular comedy now to make fun of people, religions, and even cultures. Make fun of how accents are of certain people. Make fun of certain cultural norms in certain countries. That's the particular, but does not mean we are allowed to mock and make fun of people and their cultures, and of course that is also forbidden, right? And then they say, وَكُنَّا نُكَذِّبُ بِيَوْمِ الدِّينِ. We did not believe, or we rejected the Yawm al-Qiyamah, the day of judgment. So of course, a person who does not pray, a person who mocks the religion of Allah, a person who does not have any compassion in their heart, for the poor, and then on top of that does not even believe in the day of judgment, akhirah, where do you expect them to be in the next life? In the hellfire. So these people are in the hellfire. Any questions on this number 2 category with some of these verses? These could be people who call themselves Muslims, but in fact they are not, because somebody who doesn't believe in akhirah, they don't make salah. They might call themselves. That's what I'm saying. So we should not think, oh, this is talking about non-Muslims, and in our ranks there are no people like these. You'll find these people. I remember many years ago there were a couple of brothers that I had a very heated debate with. From Muslim families and raised as Muslims and everything. And they came and they started mocking at, Maryam alayhi salam, she gave birth to Isa alayhi salam without a father. It's unscientific, that's just, not true. How could the Quran say this? And, so these are Muslims and they don't believe in that, because for them it's like, how is it possible that a woman gives birth to a baby, without being married, without having a father? So what they don't understand is that, of course, the Quran is saying that these are miracles. The Quran is not saying this is a natural process by which, things happen. Quran is not challenging science here. Quran is saying there is something outside science. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intervenes, He will make things happen which do not happen in regular cases. So miracles, that's one of the modern problems with many modern Muslims, is the miracles. They don't want to admit that these miracles are true. They want to explain it in some other way, give interpretation, and so on. Okay. Number 3, obeying the misguided leaders of kufr, accepting the principles by means of which they mislead people and turn them away from the religion of Allah. Allah says, وَقَيَّضْنَا لَهُمْ قُرَنَاءَ فَزَيَّنُوا لَهُمْ مَا بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَمَا خَلْفَهُمْ وَحَقَّ عَلَيْهِمُ الْقَوْلُ فِي قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ مِنَ الْجِنِّ وَالْإِنسِ إِنَّهُمْ كَانُوا خَاسِرِينَ وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لَا تَسْمَعُوا لِهَذَا الْقُرْآنِ وَالْغَوْا فِيهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَغْلِبُونَ فَلَنُذِيقَنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا عَذَابًا شَدِيدًا وَلَنَجْزِيَنَّهُمْ أَسْوَأَ الَّذِي كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ ذَلِكَ جَزَاءُ أَعْدَاءِ اللَّهِ النَّارُ لَهُمْ فِيهَا دَارُ الْخُلْدِ جَزَاءً بِمَا كَانُوا بِآيَاتِنَا يَجْحَدُونَ. In translation of the meaning, and we have destined for them intimate companions of like nature, who made alluring to them what was before them and what was behind them. And the sentence among the previous generations of jinns and men who have passed away is proved against them, for they are utterly lost. The unbelievers say, listen not to this Quran, but talk at random in the midst of its reading, that you may gain the upper hand. But we shall certainly give the unbelievers a taste of severe penalty, and we shall requite them the worst of their deeds. Such is the return of the enemies of Allah. The fire therein will they be for eternal. A time, a fit payment for what they used to reject as our sign. So what is the one mentioned here is um, supporting movements of kufr against Islam. That's the central idea here. So you are part of the support network of those who are trying to bring down the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet, peace be upon him. So what is one of the things they used to say to each other, the Quraysh, the kufr, leaders of kufr, when the Quran is being recited, what should you do? You start talking over it. Okay? Start saying random things, singing songs, making fun, joking. So that what? So that you will be above it. Your voice will overtake the Quran. No one will listen to the Quran. And this is how they used to stop the people from listening to the Quran. Because these people were afraid if people start listening to the Quran, what would happen? They become Muslim. Because anyone who has any truth in their heart, when they read the Quran, what happens to them? They get attracted to it. They know, they can see. Because Allah has put in each human being, there is this compass, internal compass, which kind of gets attracted to the good thing, the right thing, the fitrah, right? The human nature. So these people, they want to stop access to Islam. And that's what's happening today also. Most people around us who live around us as non-Muslims, what is the issue? The issue is not that they are bad people. The issue is they have no access to the truth. They think they have access because what are they being shown on television? What is Islam? We know what kind of Islam they are shown on television, right? What is the kind of Islam that is portrayed in movies? Muslims are always who in the movies? The bad guys. Muslims are always shown as the bad guys in the movies, right? You look at the political arena, how Islam is always during the election time, when elections come close, you see how Islam is always brought in the recent times at least, in order to bash Islam and gain votes. And why? Because people are being taught this. You will find even in the sermons of many of the evangelical Christian churches, the pastors, how they are bashing Islam in their sermons and the portrayal they have of Islam. When I was in Morgantown, one time, we saw in the university there were flyers of a church which was organizing an Islam 101 session. So it's a church which is organizing Islam 101 session. So we were like, oh, this looks good. At least, there is some education of Islam. So few of us from the masjid went to attend that session at the church, and they had invited this so-called scholar on Islam, a Christian minister. And what he was doing was, he had a PowerPoint presentation, and one side he had verses from the Bible, one side he had verses from the Quran. All the Bible verses, love, peace, Jesus came for, all these good things. And all the Quran verses, kill them wherever you find them, Don't leave them, strike at their necks. All those ayat which are talking about war. So it's like, look at this and look at this. And he wrote a book on this. His book was called Night and Day. So what's the night? Is Islam. And what's the day? Is Christianity. So that's what he was teaching to these people in West Virginia who have never ever had any exposure to Islam. What do you think will happen to these people when they go back? What do they think of Muslims? Evil people. Yeah. So then what happened was, at the end of the session, we went to him and the organizers and said, look, this is not the way. This is the wrong way. You are promoting hatred here. I can easily switch these two slides. I can show you all the loving verses from the Quran, and I can take out all the verses from the Bible which talk about warfare and so on, right? So this is not the right way of teaching religion. So then we organized 2 or 3 sessions with that church. We said one night we'll talk about Islamic position on Jesus, Christian position on Jesus. Another night we'll talk about Quran. What is the Quran? We'll talk about Quran. You talk about the Bible. We're not going to bash each other. We're not going to talk about you talk about your religion. Let us talk about ours, right? So then we had session. They agreed. We had a session. That guy, came back for those sessions later on. And, then I got to kind of be like close to this guy, and he even brought gifts for me and my wife, from where he was. Very nice guy. It's just, he himself doesn't know. He himself doesn't understand, and he's writing books on Islam. That's like, I mean, come on, at least gain some basic knowledge of the religion before you start writing books. So there is a deliberate attempt in this country by many of religious groups as well as non-religious groups, Islamophobic groups, to spread hatred about Muslims and Islam, and more importantly, to create that barrier so that people don't get to. How many non-Muslims have read the Quran? If you think about it, how many people have even picked up a copy of the Quran, say, let me see what it really says? Most of them, they depend on what they've been taught by the media, the television, their pastors, the churches, or whatever. So this is the same thing which the Quraysh were doing 1400 years ago. They were saying, whenever the Prophet starts reciting Quran, what should you do? Start making noise so that nobody else will hear the message of Islam. And so this is how these people were punished in the hellfire. Of course, we know that because Allah is the one, we are not the ones, right? If it was between us and them, we probably would have lost because we have no resources. Right? So Allah is bringing them. Allah is bringing them, because what happens is when you bash someone so much, then there are some individuals in society. A lot of them get misguided, like we said, but there are some individuals who say, "Let me check this out for myself." Yeah, these are tiny, small minority. Majority of them are misguided. That's how it is. But that has always been the case. Look at any prophet. Well, who are the majority? The guided people or the misguided people? The majority were misguided, and that's how it will be, throughout history. Yeah, and that's also what happens because Muslims are increasing now here. So now those interactions, when these interactions happen, and some of these guys who have heard that all of that garbage, they interact with this Muhammad or this sister Khadija or whoever, it's like, oh, they're really nice people. How come their religion is so bad? And then their mind starts changing. So we have a lot of work to do. I'm not saying we should sit back here and, Ya Allah, it's your religion, you take care of it. No, we have to do a lot of work. But what I'm saying is, it's Allah. Allah is the one who's gonna take care of His deen. We don't have the capacity to do so. No one has the capacity to do it. But we need to do our work. We need to do our part. Okay, any questions here? Number 4. Okay, let's see. Some questions here, we'll take them at the end. Number 4, hypocrisy, which will lead person to hellfire, and certain kind of hypocrisy will lead a person to eternal hellfire. Okay, so there's 2 forms of hypocrisy. We've talked about them before. Nifaq. Okay, what are the 2 forms? The major and the minor. What's the major hypocrisy? What does hypocrisy even mean, for the benefit of those of us who don't understand the word? What is a hypocrite? Who's a munafiq? Someone who says something but does the opposite. Okay, so he says, we should all give charity to the poor, but then he goes outside and starts robbing the poor himself. Right? He's doing the opposite. He's telling people to do one thing and he's doing the opposite himself. So that is hypocrisy. Someone whose actions and their words do not match. Right? They're going in opposite direction. So there's 2 kinds of hypocrisy. One is the major, the other is minor. What's the major hypocrisy? Yeah. Okay. So pretending to be a Muslim but in your heart, you don't believe. So from the outside, you act like a Muslim. You pray, you're fasting, you're giving charity, whatever. From the outside, when people are around to see, then you are a Muslim. But in your privacy, by yourself, you don't believe. In your heart, you have no iman. You don't really believe in Allah. You don't really believe in Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is the major hypocrisy. And this hypocrisy will lead a person to hellfire eternally, forever. Meaning if a person died while not really believing but just pretending to be a Muslim, then they are not really Muslim. They are the worst of people and they will be in the lowest of hellfire. And what's the second kind of hypocrisy? So this was the hypocrisy of belief, the first one. The other is the hypocrisy of action, deed, where you believe I should do something. You have that in but your actions are not good enough, okay, due to some weakness. So it's not like you are saying, I don't believe in Islam. Like somebody says, I really should be praying. It's bad, I'm not praying, right? Praying is good. I believe in prayer that I should be praying 5 times a day. But they don't pray 5 times a day because of weaknesses, because of, whatever reason, laziness, or whatever the reason might be. So the reason here is not belief problem. The problem is something else. And this is called minor hypocrisy. This can also lead a person to hellfire. So it's not like this person is okay. This person can also go to the hellfire. But the hope is that eventually it will be taken out. This person will be taken out of hellfire. Yes? The uncle of the Prophet, you mean Abu Talib? Abu Talib was never a Muslim. He never said, I'm a Muslim. Yeah, but he's not a hypocrite because, he never believed. He never like uttered the words of Shahada. So he never entered Islam. Yeah, he never said that I'm a Muslim. He was thinking about it, but he never did it. Any other questions on this? Major hypocrisy, minor hypocrisy. Do we understand the two? What are the characteristics of the complete hypocrite? The Prophet mentioned if you have these 4 characteristics or 3 characteristics, you are a complete hypocrite. Yes. Whenever he talks, he lies. Habitual lying. You cannot control it. Even though you don't want to lie, it just comes out of your mouth. You're a liar by nature, right? That's how you are. You cannot control yourself. Yes? Whenever he promises, he breaks the promise. You can never trust this guy. He'll tell you, I promise you tomorrow I'm going to pay you your $1,000 back. Inshallah. Next week I'm going to come and pay you your money. And you never see him next week. And then he gives you another promise and he never. So he's always lying even in his promises. You cannot trust him. Number 3. What's the third one? Whenever you entrust him, he betrays. Whenever you give him a role, a responsibility, okay, he never fulfills that responsibility. You make him the treasurer of the masjid, he runs away with your money, right? You give him your car, say, take care of my car. You come back and the engine is all gone. You see it in parts, right? You can go buy it from the thrift store now, right? Those parts. So he betrays you. You cannot trust this guy ever, right? So that's the third. And the fourth one? Yeah. So whenever he argues, he insults. He doesn't know how to argue properly with dignity. His voice will go up and angry and he is throwing insults at you. The issue was something else and he goes to personal issues. Okay, let's say, how does a Muslim argue? Let's talk about the issue at hand. Don't get into my history and what I did, 10 years ago. And that's not the issue here. The issue is what we are talking about. So instead of focusing on the issue and presenting good arguments for his side, he goes and starts, becoming aggressive, nasty, foul language, bad words, becoming personal. So these are the 4 characteristics of the hypocrite. If you have all 4 of them, you are a complete hypocrite, meaning the major one, the first kind. If you have any of them, then that means you have traces of hypocrisy which you need to correct quickly. Otherwise, it can grow. Hypocrisy is like a disease, like a cancer. It will grow over time. So, if you are a liar, then you will also sooner or later start breaking your promises. If you're breaking your promises, that means you're not trustworthy, right? And when you're not trustworthy and people come and argue, show you the mirror, say, here, this is who you are, what are you going to do back? You'll yell at them, curse them, use bad. So you will acquire all characteristics slowly. So we need to watch out for the hypocrisy. What does Allah say in the Quran? وَعَدَ اللَّهُ الْمُنَافِقِينَ وَالْمُنَافِقَاتِ وَالْكُفَّارَ نَارَ جَهَنَّمَ خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا هِيَ حَسْبُهُمْ وَلَعَنَهُمُ اللَّهُ وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ مُقِيمٌ. Allah has promised the hypocrites, men and women, and the rejectors of faith, the fire of hell. Therein they shall dwell. Sufficient is it for them. For them is the curse of Allah and an enduring punishment. Okay. In another ayah, Innal munafiqina fid darkil asfali minan nar walan tajida lahum nasira. The hypocrites will be in the lowest depths of the fire. No helper will you find for them. So the hypocrite is actually worse than the kafir. Who is in the lowest part of the hellfire, the worst part of the hellfire? The hypocrite. It's not for the kafir. Kafir might be in a better place in the hellfire. It's still all bad, right? But in a higher place. But the hypocrite is in the lowest, the worst of it. That shows that it is the most hated position to be in. Yes? Yeah, even the one who commits shirk. The hypocrite, Allah said, is in the lowest. Why? What's the difference between the two? At least the one who commits shirk, he's honest about it. He has some honesty, some integrity. Like, I'm a kafir. I believe in Allah and Al-Uzza and I'm going to die for Allah and Al-Uzza. Right? He has some integrity, some trust. You can trust what he's saying to you because he is what he is, right? He shows you his real face. But the hypocrite is very dangerous. He doesn't show you. Yeah, he lies. He can kind of deceive you. He can kind of harm you from within. And that's what happened, didn't it? So they are double. Yeah, but they are not hypocrites of faith at least. Yeah, so that's hypocrisy of action. It's not hypocrisy of iman, right? They're not telling you, I am a Muslim and then they're not Muslim, right? We're talking about hypocrisy of iman here. That's the worst kind of thing. From the group of the Muslims, there were many. There were many hypocrites. Yes, the Prophet knew them by name. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam the names of the hypocrites. Right? Because otherwise, can you know? You can kind of make a prediction, like, this guy looks like he might not be a good Muslim or true Muslim, but can you be sure? I don't know the number. Allahu Alam. He's saying 10, but I don't know. Maybe there are 10. I'm sure there are more than 10. The chief of them we know. No, Abdullah ibn Ubay, okay, ibn Salul. He was the chief of all the hypocrites in Medina, and he's the one who led the hypocrisy movement in Medina against the Prophet, peace be upon him. The Prophet even went and prayed for him, and Allah told him, no, you're not allowed to pray for these people, right? So who was the only Sahabi who knew the names of all the hypocrites? So the Prophet knew the names, and the Prophet only told one other person besides himself. No. Start with a Z. Zaid. H. Yeah. So H. H. Who is the one with H? Huzaifa ibn al-Yaman. Huzaifa ibn al-Yaman. Huh? Yeah, because the Prophet knows that he is the one who can keep the secret the most. Not everyone is, this is an art. This is not everyone can do it, right? Even if you're a good person, you might be loose when you talk, right? You might reveal somebody's. Nobody. Omar doesn't know, Abu Bakr doesn't know, Uthman, none of the Aisha doesn't know. The only other person who knows is Huzaifa ibn al-Yaman. Yeah, yeah, right, right. So whenever somebody would die, okay, all the Sahaba would wait and see if Huzaifa attends the prayer. Because if he doesn't attend the prayer, that means what? He might be on the list. He might be a munafiq. No, no, he couldn't because it's a trust from the Prophet, right? This is an honor from the Prophet that the Prophet trusted him with the name, so he cannot reveal anyone's name to anybody else. Nor did any Sahabi try to ask him who are the people. Yes. Yeah, there is some good in knowing. That's a good question. There's some good in knowing those people, but the harm sometimes can be greater because remember, this was a tribal culture in society. So if those individuals were pointed out and everyone knows them, then what would happen? They would split away, and they have followers. They have huge followers. So in order to keep their followers in Islam, you let them go. So you have to be smart. You have to be wise. Huh? Keep your enemy close. Yeah, don't let them splinter off into different groups. So in order to unite the Muslims, the Prophet ﷺ did not. The Prophet knows about them. He can do something, right? He can order all of them, come and you're out. You're not going to stay with us anymore. But the Prophet lets them pray. They're fasting. They're doing all their corruptions. The Prophet is quiet. Why? Because of the greater good. The greater good is keep this community together. Because if they leave, then many of the innocent people with them who don't know their true colors, true nature, they might leave with them. So this is leadership now. So that's a very good question. Why didn't the Prophet just name them out and say these are the ones, stay away from them? Hikmah, but it requires a lot of patience. Because what are they doing to the Prophet all the time? They're bothering him, they're corrupting the society, they're like within the ranks plotting against him. So for the Prophet to remain patient for the greater good, not everyone can do that. Not easy. Okay, any questions? Yes. Was what used? No, no, the list is only known to Huzaifa and it went with Huzaifa. Yeah, Huzaifa did not. No, not that I know of. He never revealed anyone. And that's why I'm saying they would just see if he attends the salah of someone and then they would do it, otherwise they wouldn't. Okay, so today's session we talked about some of the people who will end up in hellfire. Who are those people? We talked about the mushrik, the one who commits shirk and kufr. We talked about the one who doesn't pray, who doesn't feed the poor, who denies the day of judgment, mocks at the religion, supports systems which are trying to bring down the Muslims and Islam, and the hypocrisy, the one who have hypocrisy in it. Any final comments, questions before we go to the quiz? Not in that category, but it is another category by itself, right? Supporting falsehood. So we are not allowed to support falsehood, and especially if you are, because of that, then saying that, in Islam it is allowed, then that's an even greater crime, bigger sin, because you're trying to change the deen of Allah to please the people. Okay? So supporting them, no, definitely is supporting them in their way of life or in their sin, or agreeing with it, even in your heart, agreeing with it. These are all sins. So you should still make da'wah to them. We should still make da'wah to everybody. So Islam is open to anybody who wants to change and come to the straight path. But we cannot agree with them. We cannot, entertain this kind of behavior. We can make dua for them. Allah guide them. We can make da'wah to them, educate them. We can present arguments to them. Okay, while we maintain our position. Okay, so we should never compromise on our Islamic position. If your business is helping them establish in their way of life, then you shouldn't. Meaning, if you're doing business with an organization, But if it's individuals, because they could be anybody, right? They could be the carpenter. They could be a painter who comes to your house. They could be, a balloon person or whatever. So, in that case, there is no harm in that. Allah Alam. Rayan, can you distribute these? You want to help? You want to help? Come and help. One of you help with these. No, don't take this color. Take this color. Here, distribute this to everyone. Give a pen to everybody. Allahu Akbar, Allah. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. 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 الله أكبر، الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة والدرجة الرفيعة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته وارزقنا شفاعته يوم القيامة إنك لا تخلف الميعاد. Okay, question for today is give one characteristic of a hypocrite. Hypocrisy. Any one characteristic of a hypocrite. What are some of the signs of the hypocrite? Any one. Just mention one sign of a hypocrite. Just one is enough. Write your name and then bring your paper and the pen, please. More importantly, the pen. Short on pens. Every week my pens are going down. So please bring the pens back. Thank you so much. One sign of the hypocrite, write your name and the answer, wrap it up and give it to me. Make sure you bring the pen. Yes, thank you. Yes. It's like rejecting Islam in a way, right? Rejecting the Quran in a way. Yeah. Allah guide those people. Okay, it's okay. Jazakumullah khair. Is that it? Anyone else? Okay, quick, quick, quick. Time is running out here. Salam. It's okay, no problem. Nifaq, one of the alama of nifaq. Alamatul nifaq. Either way is fine. Both are fine. Arabic, English, both are fine. So write it. Write it. Yeah. Okay, done? Let the brother quickly write. Just one brother. Ismak. Name. Okay, I'll announce it after Isha. Inshallah. جزاكم الله خير. آه.